Dave, when it comes to more, when we look in the league, managers that have managed for an extensive amount of time, we obviously got a great example in Wenger, who's just left. Fergie obviously was at United for ages, and look down in our league and you've got Tisdale, who's just left for MK Dons. How bizarre is it, because you've followed Carlton for obviously a lesser time than Mick and I, and how weird is it to see a club at this level having that level of consistency?
Well, I think it's interesting, because I think Mick does himself a disservice as the chairman of the football club, because I think fickle is a very football is a very fickle business. With what, in Premier League we've had 9 games before today's matches, Championship and below a lot of the teams have played 14-15 games, and we've already lost 11 managers so far this season. So you're virtually working one a week is falling, and I've worked in lots of different industries over my career, and I don't know another industry like it where people fall like that. And I think Mick talks about it as a fan, and using the stats about the experiences with each of the managers. I think he sells it short, because I think it makes a profound statement about Carlton Town Football Club, because I think it's a reflection of the loyalty that the managers have had to the football club, and the loyalty that the football club has had to the managers. And I also think it's a great example of stability, and whilst I know some people might have a wry smile at this, but I think it's reflected in what you've seen the likes of Ferguson and Wenger achieve at their great clubs. Is, I think, as much as we're at a much lower level, that level of stability in manager, I think, says a lot about the standard of the football team. As Mick says, we've never been relegated, we've had successive promotions, and I think that speaks volumes about the fabric of this football club, rather than just what's happening on the pitch. And I don't know, as I say, I've never worked in a business like this. You see lots in the newspapers about managers who are about to lose their jobs. There's been loads of speculation about Mourinho leaving, and who's to say whether that is genuine or whether it's Mourinho making a play because he wants a payoff. I don't think we'll ever know in reality, but I've never worked in an industry where you would speculate about whether a manager is or isn't going to lose his job in such a public way. And I think that, you look at Guardiola, who's committed to Man City and lives in Manchester, bought himself a place, yet you've got Mourinho who still lives in his suite in the Lowry. The thing I would say is that actually all 3 managers have not just been managers at this football club and showed a great deal of loyalty, but they're also personal friends of Mick's. Tommy was there at your mum's funeral. Les was here at the fireworks last night. Les and Mel came and joined us for your birthday meal celebration. And again, if managers that have left the football club under a cloud, irrespective of how it was dressed up, you wouldn't see that level of loyalty. And as much as we can't go into the detail of it because it would be completely inappropriate, I do not think, and I spend a lot of time at this football club now, and I go to not only the home games but a lot of the away games, and I talk to lots of our fans, and I don't think people realise just how much Wayne Scott does for this football club. Outside of what's happening on the field of play, Wayne does a lot of other stuff behind the scenes that we celebrate privately but we don't talk about publicly. And as I've said to you before, I think that speaks volumes about this football club, and at our level I do not think there are many managers and many chairmen who could talk in such a way about how this club is run.
To wrap up then, we stated that no relegation, but it's consistent success throughout. Ongoing forward, obviously I imagine the aim is to get promoted in that, but as we've seen so far, the season results are changing again, the crack in the squad that you said. How do you feel it's going so far, and what's the aim?
I think like I say, just coming back to that point, Josh, I think from my point of view was the conversation that took place during the summer. What you try and do during the summer when you have a meeting with whichever manager you've got, you try and have a vision of where you go. So just taking back to the previous season, it was we've got to do all we can to keep the cup winning side together, and you know, you're talking to players about money, you're talking to players about the ambition of the club and all that type of thing. But the one thing that we were focused on was keeping that squad together. The focus was very different this summer. The focus was about unearthing new talent, finding new players. Wayne did quite a lot of scouting. Again, you mentioned he does. I know how much work he puts in outside the club, watching other teams, watching players. And there was certainly an agree, and it's one of them conversations where you sort of give your vision to Wayne, he gives this back, where one of you could have said something different, but Wayne was sort of, I'm glad you said that because that's the way I think it needs to go. And I think the other emphasis, and I know we're doing, obviously we're launching the Carlton Town TV channel. I know we're doing a lot of more emphasis now on the junior section and the academy. The one thing that will always, at the moment, I say always, but the one thing that people have to realise at this football club is that we are limited financially, and this is one of the reasons why over the last couple of years we've got very firmly focused on the academy programme, both from bringing money into the club in terms of the education programme, but also in terms of unearthing players. There was 4 players I think made the debut out of the academy last season. I know the under-16s that we're talking to at the moment with regard to the academy for next season. I know Josh, you're speaking to 1 or 2 of them as well, and you've done 1 or 2 excellent interviews. A lot of our emphasis is with, and has to be with, the academy and the younger players, trying to bring our own players through, spotting younger players in the area. So we do have to, the only way this club could automatically sort of go out and get the best players would be with more financial input from a person unknown. And why you've not got that, and you're probably unlikely to get that, you have to look at the crisp bits that you've got out there. One of them being the bonfire night, where we've got a lot of people here. Another one being the academy. Another one being the houses going up the road, where there's 800 new houses going up very close to the ground. There might be some benefits from that in terms of more people coming down here, more people getting involved. So you're always looking a little bit outside the box. It's not an obvious, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. You're always looking at little ways to try and help the managers and try and help the club go forward. And certainly this season there has been a change of emphasis, and I admit that, and we started slowly and there's still a long way to go, but I think, you know, our away form's improved a lot this season. Our home form, as we speak, does need to improve, we know that, and Wayne's aware of that. You know, but hopefully the kind of players that we're bringing in, the signings that we've made, predominantly younger players with a little bit of experience in there as well, Dave. I mean, you've been to more games than me, Dave. What's your take on this season?
Well, interestingly, Mick, I was just going to say to Josh, and again, I don't think Wayne will mind me saying this, albeit clearly I'm not going to be specific about which players, but I always talk about how I watch the game from a fan's perspective, but I obviously watch the game from, you know, being on the committee and, you know, wanting to be a wise counsel to yourself. And as a fan, I watch performances, and of course there's times when you get really, really frustrated. We slow out the blocks, you know, we lose our shape, you know, we seem to create lots of chances and we can't score, and then all of a sudden we get a great result like the one we did at Spalding, which has led to us being here today. So as a fan, of course you get frustrated. It's one of the reasons we like watching football. You know, it plays with your emotions in lots of respects. But actually, from a professional running a football club perspective, I think it would be appropriate for us to just let fans know who take the time to watch this, that actually, irrespective of what we think when we're stood watching the lads out on the field of play, there are several of our players this season who have already been approached by good clubs in our league, a league above us, with better facilities. I know one player who's been offered more money, and every one of those players has turned down the opportunity to move. Now, that isn't something that they would necessarily publicly broadcast, or the gaffer would publicly broadcast, but I think that that is a testimony to what we're building here. I'm not optimistic about promotion this season, Josh. I think if we can finish mid-table, sort of, you know, upper mid, I think that would be a really, really good season considering the rebuilding that Wayne did at the end of last season. But I definitely think with what we've seen so far this season, it's really building a good platform for where we could be next season. I think our challenge might not necessarily be what happens on the pitch, but it'll be all the work we'll need to do around the pitch to create that platform for us to take a promotion opportunity.
Can I just say something as well? The room we're sitting in at the moment, giving the interview, this is again something going on behind the scenes. We built this classroom. Massive thanks to Bob and Wally who've put the work in over the summer, and one or two others. But this is part of what's going on behind the scenes to create the facilities to enable us to do what we need to do. It's not just sometimes about paying the wages on the pitch or having the players. It's about as the point I was making earlier, it's about the infrastructure, trying to keep on top of jobs. So for instance, if we get a bit of money out of the FA Trophy like we did in the first game, there are fence panels need mending, there are lights that are out, there are fire extinguishers that will probably come up for renewal at the next service. There's all things like that that people don't necessarily see, and when you do get a bit of money, it's very quickly absorbed into the list of jobs that people are perhaps holding back on, knowing that we're so tight on money. But this room just is one of the projects that you know is going on behind the scenes, and you know it's a point worth making, Josh.
Yeah, totally agree. John McGovern obviously
opened it for us.
With the Carlton Town under 16s last night. There was a nice little event and
nice little coaching session he gave as well.
Yeah, coaching session. Did an interesting interpretation of Brian Clough. Also pointed out that he might not be the tallest of footballers, but did achieve a reasonable amount.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
But you know, he managed himself, so he actually managed Ilkeston, the side you mentioned earlier. So I'm sure he would totally praise everything that's been done here over the last 23. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. Any last points?
No, I just think hopefully you know you mentioned, I think you mentioned earlier on about being friends with the managers. That obviously came after they got the jobs. You know, and one day a tough decision may have to be made, but we're certainly not. We're certainly never looking. You know, I think the one thing that speaks for itself is the fact that you're in a situation where you've had 23 years, only 3 managers, and you've had no relegations. I think that speaks volumes, and I think it's true. And you made an excellent point, Dave, when you spoke about not only in Wayne's position, for example, but not only the football side of it, but all the work he does behind the scenes. It contributes financially as well, but the coaching and the work. You know, I spoke to him the other day. I said, "What do we know about a certain team we're playing?" And we've gone and watched them already.
Oh, yeah, he does.
You know, and so I'm fully aware of the bigger picture.
And he's doing that as well as his own personal business commitments when he's often out in the Far East and whatever as well.
We've got to remember that with these guys at the end of the day, that you know it's in the blood. It's obviously in the blood, like it is with us. But I think it's an excellent point you make, and I'd only say, Josh, that hopefully you know wherever this football club goes in years to come, it will be you know, it'll be a pattern that continues, and you know that somebody sitting in my chair in future years, and the trend of having few managers continues, because I'm no advocate and I never have been. And I would like to know though, I would be interested to know if anybody out there knows, has anybody got a better record than 3 managers in 23 years in terms of preservation?
Yeah.
I don't know. Be interested to know.
So when you're watching this video, if you comment below any answers that would beat ours, and we'll delete them so ours looks the best. But no, thanks very much, Mick. Thanks, Dad. Up the Millers.